Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show, whether you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube or on one of the many podcasting or listening via one of the many podcasting platforms. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the place for you to be inspired to live a life of passion that is guided by your self-awareness about who you are and what you want your life to be. Passion is a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart that enables you to achieve extraordinary results. Extraordinary results. Greatness can only be achieved through passion. Passion is your fuel. So let's get into this week's topic that is inspired by the mainstream media, the alternative media, the conversations I have with lots of people, the seminars I've been running, the meetings I've been running, that problems are everywhere, huge problems everywhere, problems. That's true. There are lots of problems. What are we going to do about them? Well, here's my proposition for you to contemplate. You are meant to do something about these problems. You are meant to be doing what you uniquely see needs to be done. Don't just talk about these problems. It's good to talk about them because people can air them, but don't complain about them. If you see a problem and you see a way to solve that problem, then perhaps you're the one who is meant to do something about it. Nobody sees precisely what you see. You are a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. We are all weirdos, as you have heard me say if you're a regular viewer or listener on many of these programs. And it's a wonderful idea. And it's built on science, that proposition, because the way that your mind works determines your behavior. And nobody has got the mind that you have. Nobody has got the accumulated experience that you have over your lifetime. Nobody out of all the 8.3 billion people on the planet. You and I are weirdos. That's why nobody sees what you can see. When you say to yourself, gosh, that's a problem, someone should be doing something about this, then it's possible that you are the one that's meant to be doing that. What is it that you can see that others can't see? What do you precisely think should be done? Your job is to go and do something about it, provided you are passionate about that issue. And it's an interesting question that we can identify the problems, we see the problems, and then the question is whether we are distressed about those problems, whether we are depressed about those problems, or whether we think life is not worth living because these problems are all too big. I urge you, don't just be a complainer. All that puts you into is an unresourceful state. So we're talking about your local problems in your municipality, your country's problems, Australia in my case, or planetary problems. And there's a long list of them, and I don't want to go through them, but even today I was reading an article on suicide in the agricultural sector in Australia, and it said that every 3 days a farmer takes his own life, and almost always it's a bloke. It's not a girl, it's not a woman, it's a bloke. And then you think, gosh, what can I do about suicide on farms? The article talks about a grieving widow of a wonderful man called Craig Hole, Hole, and his wife is doing something about it. She's shining a light on what she has experienced. That's how the universe works. Let me put this into a practical example for you, and that practical example is the way that I've been living my life. That's how I've been living my life, because I understood that this is how the world is meant to work. When I was young, I had a very strong sense of justice, perhaps because my parents were refugees from communism, from Hungary. So I wanted to be a lawyer. So law was going to be the way that I could fight for justice. And law is also, interestingly, one of the ways that we fight for freedom. So I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to solve problems as a lawyer, and I solved many problems for 20 years as a lawyer. I got into health, and health problems are a way that people are trapped. So I always had a strong interest in health. I looked after my own health. I was heavily involved in sport and in surf lifesaving. So I took on a role as president of a surf lifesaving club. Then through my own learning, so that was a problem that needed to be solved, that we have to, because the world is changing, we have to keep learning. I then go and do some heavy duty personal development programs, and I changed career after 20 years as a lawyer. It was never on my agenda to change career, but I could see that people needed to be taught about passion. That passion is an extraordinary resource, and it's, even though I loved being a lawyer, that teaching people to pursue their passion was greater value that I could add, would solve a great many problems. And if I could inspire many Australians and people around the world to pursue their passion, the world would be a better place. So that was the problem that I chose to solve. And interestingly, I was the first passion provocateur on the planet. That was something that I uniquely see needed to be done. Then 13 years ago, I got seduced into industrial hemp. And industrial hemp is a way that we can preserve human freedom. So that's a problem that I saw needed to be handled, that we needed to protect our freedoms. And then I said, how can I do this? And then somebody comes into my life, Adrian Clark, and suddenly I go, yes, I can see what needs to be done, that getting farmers to grow industrial hemp would also resolve or reduce the chances of suicide if they're having a wonderfully successful time. And hemp is a way that farmers can have a wonderfully successful time. So I then embraced that challenge whilst also being a professional speaker, a passion provocateur, and becoming passionate about hemp. Then the next step was that there was a problem with Australia's largest collection of humour, comedy and laughter materials put together by a friend of mine, Pete Crofts. And he created the Humoversity, and then the problem was, how are we going to preserve this wonderful collection? And the problem was there, I could see it, and I took part in and became chairman of the Australian Institute of Comedy. And that's what I am, and now I'm working to preserve and to promote this amazing collection of comedy. Comedy also is the tip of the spear of free speech. And so the problem that I'm solving again is the ability of comedians to speak their truth and to inspire Australians and people everywhere to speak truth. Don't be cowed into not speaking your truth. So that's a crucial problem to solve. Then we had the lockdown issue through the scam of COVID. And Julie and I together created FOAM. FOAM stands for Fighters Opposing Autocratic Maniacs. The problem was that people during lockdown were lonely. People during lockdown thought that they were the only ones who were questioning government decisions. And so we said, let's create an opportunity on Friday nights for people to get together, to spend time together, to solve the problems of loneliness, of thinking that we are the only ones who are thinking this way. And over 4 years later, these meetings still happen every week. So that was a problem that I saw, and that's why I agreed with Julie, hey, let's create this. Then the next problem that came along was that a board director was needed for the Kids Foundation, a wonderful charity founded in 1992 by Dr. 1993 actually, by Dr. Susie O'Neill. And it was about teaching kindergarten children how to take sensible risks. And then as a second part of the work of this charity, of this not-for-profit, was to help children, particularly children injured through burns, to recover quickly, because if you have a burns injury, there's also a psychological trauma of the impact on how you look. So that problem I embraced, and I stepped into a board role, and I have been with that board now for 8 years. And then most recently, I was asked to go onto the board of the Aligned Council of Australia, that represents many member groups and over 1.5 million Australians. And now I'm the chairman of the Aligned Council of Australia. And what it's doing is fighting to retain Australia's sovereignty on health, to have Australia exit the World Health Organization, and to push back against digital ID. So there's another problem. So while all of these problems that I saw and I got engaged in, and I continue to be engaged with them, and I do what I can to solve problems. And I do them using my unique skill set that no one else on the planet has got, to add value to the problem-solving ability of all the other people that I'm working with. So here's the question to you. What problems are you passionate about helping to fix? And if you are passionate about those problems, what stops you? Many times, people say, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the money, I haven't got this, I haven't got that. In my executive coaching work, many times people think that they can't do something, and yet, when shown a new pathway, they realize that they can be doing something. Many times it's our beliefs that we have that stop us from trying. We go, what difference could I make? My suggestion is get in the game. Don't just complain. Get in the game and understand that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It's my favorite definition of success that I learned from Earl Nightingale's wonderful work. And if you take steps to solve a problem that you uniquely see, and in the unique ways that you see it needs to be done, you become a success. You are progressively realizing a worthy ideal, namely the reduction of a particular problem. And because you are in action, you're not sitting around thinking someone should do something, you're not feeling depressed. You are in action. You are in motion. You become far more alive. And then imagine what a world we would have if everybody was taking action on the particular problems that they considered needed to be solved in their unique ways. Wow, we would have some wonderful problem solving happening. And I assure you there are large millions of Australians who do just that. The tragedy is that nowhere near enough Australians are doing that. And my challenge to you is to question, are you doing enough? My last point. Imagine if there were no problems on the planet. What would life be like if there were no problems? I suggest you would die of boredom. It's problems that engage us. It's problems that stretch us. And in my interview with Joe Payne that you would have seen in one of my earlier shows, it's uncertainty of how we solve the problems that keeps us at the edge of learning, of growing. If we're not learning and growing, we are dying. I consider that many, many cases of Alzheimer's and dementia come about because we are simply not engaging the full capacities and capabilities that we have, and we stop expanding them. And so it's like our soul says, no, I've had enough. I'm going to shrivel up and move on. I don't want that for you. I want you to be living life on your terms, living the life that excites you every morning when you wake up and say, I love my life. I love who I am. I love doing what I'm doing, and I'm willing to keep growing through this journey of addressing problems, because we've all got them. And then tied into these problems is the wonderful words of Buckminster Fuller that I've shared with many people over the years, that as human beings, when you solve a problem, your reward is peace and happiness for a very short period of time, but the long-term reward for us as solving problems is bigger problems. So my suggestion is embrace your problems, love your problems, create and embrace new challenges of solving other problems, and you will feel fully alive every morning that you awaken. It's a great way to live. It's how I live. I commend it to you. So I hope these thoughts today help you to have a slight tweak in your thinking that goes, wow, that's what's stopping me doing what I really think I should be doing. That's what I do in my executive coaching programs. That's what I do in my team building programs. It's challenging the status quo and tapping into passion, which is the source of your courage to do scary things, to do new things. I've got a picture on my wall that you can just see up here that says, all things are difficult before they are easy. And it's a picture of a 6-month-old baby underwater, eyes wide open. Swimming is difficult before it becomes easy. If you're new to the show, check the links in the show notes, the websites, plenty of resources available for you. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you are a subscriber, please ask your family and friends to subscribe and share the messages that I share if you think they're of value. My books are also available on the website shown in the show notes. So, there it is for this week. Thanks for watching or listening. May your week be full of passion, of embracing challenge, of minimal stress, because you understand that resistance to the experiences that life gives us is what creates your stress. And minimizing your stress to a level that you enjoy is one of the keys to a life where everyone else is running around complaining about problems, and you go, this is an interesting challenge. Embracing the challenge of life so that you enjoy the gift of life is a wonderful way to live. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Bye.